Hey people, my name is Carlos Luna. I'm the content producer here at Roll20, and I'm so excited because today I get to interview Chris Spivey. Chris is a writer, creator, game developer, veteran, I'm running out of fingers, CEO of Darker Hue Studios. He's a whole list of things, and you all should be jealous. We're here to talk about Chris's most recent release, Haunted West, which is a historical fiction, weird Western spaghetti's in there, spaghetti action role-playing game. That's a mouthful. Chris, how are you doing?
Great. You pretty much said everything, so I think that's a wrap, folks.
We did. We nailed it. We nailed it on the first time out. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you watching this on YouTube, right after this interview, we have Haunted West, an actual play. So we're going to be talking about the book right now. And Chris, the creator, the writer, the author, is going to be walking us through it and telling us a little bit more about that. Chris, hang on one second. I'm just making sure we're all good here. Yeah, we're good. So I'm going to be flying through some questions right after this interview. We have the session 0. This Session 0 is a limited run show, so we are doing 5 episodes. 4 of them will be sessions. This one right after this interview will be a session 0, so you can see like the character creation, you can, the conversations that a GM might have with their players. So you can get a real feel and a taste for this book. What else? If you're watching this on YouTube, check the description. I will leave a link for this actual play because I imagine you're watching this in the future. All right, Chris, for the people at home, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe some previous projects that people might know you from.
So I've already had a great introduction. Now I feel like I will have to go and hype myself just a little bit by merely saying I am just a writer. And I was fortunate enough to work on some great projects. But a bit about me, I'm from Alabama, a small little town folks may have heard of called Auburn. We've got a football team. And I think that's about it. You can pretty much drive through town other than that.
Okay. For the town, not you though, right? Like for the town, that's it. Okay, good. Yeah, so just a little bit about you. Some projects that you've been on, like I know there's one that sticks out in particular, Harlem Unbound, which how come you manage to find, like, when did that book come out?
The first edition came out in 2017.
Okay.
It was a labor of love.
How did you beat both like Lovecraft Country? Is it country or county? Lovecraft County Country, yeah, with that book, and then this book. There's another Netflix show, all POC cowboy gangsters as well.
The harder they fall
in the West, yeah, the harder they fall. It's just like you know what's about to hit in the zeitgeist, and you have prepared a book for the last 3 years of your life to match those releases.
I think there are actually network executives that follow my Twitter account and they wait for me to mention something cool and they go, that's it.
We got to invest in that.
Then it's a race.
It's a race. That's fantastic. If you can tell us a little bit about Haunted West. Tell us a little bit about this, how this came about. Was this a passion project you had in your head for a long time? Was this something that's just like it came out of nowhere? Tell us about it.
So do you want me to, do you want me to go more into Haunted West first, or would you like to hear about some Homebound creation or actually some of the other projects?
Yeah, let's hear about those.
Kind of joked our way through some of them. So
let's hear about those other projects.
So when I first started, I had the great fortune of sitting down with Robin Laws at Gen Con briefly. And I told him I have this great idea. I want to have more inclusion and diversity in gaming and some of my other thoughts. And Robin told me that is a great idea, but you shouldn't tell me that on the middle of the Gen Con floor. Here's my card. Call me after Gen Con.
Yeah.
And so then I got to have a call maybe a few weeks later with Robin, about an hour and a half. And he put me in touch with Pelgrane Press. And that's where I got to have my first piece of work published through Pelgrane, which was about this integrated CCC group that was encountering a mythos entity in Vermont. and the CCC was like the civilian corps during Roosevelt during the 30s.
That's so you have you always integrated like history and historical stuff? Like that seems to be like your thing, right?
I've grew up with a love of history. A lot of it came from reading books. Almost, geez, I think I started reading almost before could walk. Is what my grandmother would always joke about.
What?
Well, I grew up in Alabama, and there wasn't a lot to do in Alabama, as I mentioned earlier.
I,
If you didn't like football, which I don't, well, I do now, just a smidge, because my wife's family loves the Eagles, so now I'm an Eagles fan whenever they play.
yeah, okay. But still like you're pretty young reading. Like that is I don't know if that's so much an Alabama thing as so much as just like somewhat with a disposition for literature. But that's awesome.
I
Yeah.
My first encounter with gaming was with the red box set, where a friend of mine went, and so we walked across town. I think we were like around 8 or 9, if that old, and we went to the store and we bought like the D&D red box set, and that was like my first encounter with gaming because we loved reading, so we figured we could make our own worlds and do all these other things.
Wow.
But unfortunately, when we opened the book, we saw all the characters in it. They didn't look like us.
Yeah.
They had elves and dwarves, but they were all very much just like white characters.
Yeah, I know that very well. But so that kind of like started. So have you always wanted like can you what are some of your inspirations like in gaming stuff that like you're like, "Oh, I need to be making stuff like that. I need to be this is an archetype for me."
So my real love of gaming probably hit when I was around 13 or 14, when I was at this estate sale. So an estate sale is when someone passes away and you have to like watch their house, and the next day people come and they sort of like take away their items to sell and everything else. But one of the things that we found, because there were 6 of us that were there, I found this book of Lovecraft at the time. And I sat down and I read through it at night in my sleeping bag with my flashlight, like all these horror stories about something that was greater and more encompassing than what I could understand. And it was a great moment to see and sense all that. At that time, as like a 13-year-old, I didn't understand all the baggage that was associated with Lovecraft,
Mm,
but the history and the horror and all the science fiction that sort of drew me to Call of Cthulhu.
that's awesome. And that story in itself is very scary. The fact that you're just like, oh, I'm 13. You could see the camera panning in from an estate sale as you rifle through this person who passed away stuff, and you find this book that would like lead you on this path for the rest of your life. Like that's pretty cool. Tell us about Haunted West. Tell us about how this came to be. It almost feels like um, well, it's a big honking book. I'll just tell you that. Like I already told you earlier, this is a big book. This is a big boy. This is a kill a spider, a centipede, like all at the same time book, right? Like which
I wanted something that could stop a bullet for people. If you're in the Old West, you got to worry about bullets, and now you've got a vest.
it's fantastic though. Like it's chock full of everything. Like everything that you can think of or want. Tell us about how that started. Was this something that you had in your mind for a long time, or did it start out small and kind of snowballed? Like, what was that process like?
So it started actually with my grandmother back in Alabama. I was a kid, and we only had one TV because we didn't have a lot of money. And I would be watching cartoons in the morning, and then on Saturday mornings she would come in, and suddenly we were watching westerns. And at first, I had a real issue with that. It's like, come on, I want to finish like what happens to like the X-Men, but I don't know because now we're watching like the Rifleman. And eventually, it sort of became almost like a bonding time for us to spend time together, which in it itself sort of became like an important thing. And then we just started doing it whenever she would come in. I like flip over to the westerns then, and it was our thing. And as I got older, I would notice that again, there weren't people that looked like me in the westerns, or if there were people that looked like me, they were frequently the butt of people's jokes, or they were very side characters, or they took the approach that people took when they don't want to talk about racism and things. They just don't include other people. And that always stuck with me. And when I was watching it younger, I didn't understand why it bothered me. But as I got older and I developed more content and world weariness, a better understanding of the world, I put together what it was. And ever since then, I've always wanted to go back and attempt to reclaim some of that genre for other people, because our stories and we're there,
Yeah.
and a lot of our stories were taken or stolen, and we can't have a productive future without knowing our past, and that means combating all the bad parts and celebrating all the good parts.
Yeah. How did you do like what was your when you're approaching this? And if you can actually just tell people, give people a little bit of a rundown of Haunted West, what they would find in the book, that would be great. And then I can dive a little bit deeper into it.
So Haunted West is probably the most historically accurate role-playing game, and I will even go so far as to say possibly book, that you would find that talks about the Old West, because we talk about the history, the people, the land, the indigenous nations that were here before the colonizers came over, and the different deals that were made between different peoples and groups, and how that was a cycle of violence, but at the same time, there was this thing about how all of that shaped the nation that we live on and that we're all called home now. And so all of that is in the book. And on top of that, there is a three-tiered system of gameplay where you can go almost super narratively described. You can go hardcore, like chase rules with moving jacks and other pieces, or a miniatures combat level. And I know that some people enjoy Powered by the Apocalypse, so I hired another great writer to come in and make a Powered by the Apocalypse hack in the book too. And on top of that,
It's insane.
we add an alternate history that talks about the Reconstruction and what if it had actually been successful. And on top of that, we add in the Weird West and lots of different aspects of the Weird West. Because the Weird West isn't just vampires or werewolves. It is a large field of different things, from aliens to vampires to spirits to folklore, and we encompass all that in the book. I almost like to call the book itself a box set in one book.
Yeah. Yeah. I had made a joke earlier when we were getting ready that this is the core, very similar to like the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, all inside one book, which is fantastic because I was, I think I ended up messaging you like shortly after I actually opened up the book and I was like leafing through it. And usually when I'm like browsing a book, I'm becoming familiar with a book. I'm not like one of those people like page one and then the end of the book. I like leaf through it and I find the things that like strike my fancy. And I found myself stalled so many times where I'm just like, what's this about? The history of the Lone Ranger? I'm like, what? I'm like, why is this like, because I flipped through a lot of RPGs. I'm the content producer here at Roll20. It's kind of my job. And like the way you mixed the historical with like the gameplay and also the like what if type stuff, it all feels like if you had given us one thing, that would be enough, right? Like it felt like if I had given you one thing, that'd be enough. But the fact that like it all exists, it's like a huge buffet for anyone who wants to run this. Like they are armed to the teeth with how to run the game for their particular. It's like, you know what it is? Not to get all psychological on you, but you had just mentioned that like you had not seen this stuff growing up, and it almost feels like you were making up for lost time. Like when I'm leafing through this, it's just like, you know what? I didn't get this. It's like when you grow up and you buy all the toys that you never had when you were a kid. Like that's what this book is like. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me more about like. Let's talk about the gameplay. Let's talk about like the system that you have or the systems that you have in there.
So we broke it down to, if I remember now off the top of my head, we've got Deadlands, the Dead Man's Hand, which is very much the tabletop, the style that a lot of old school gamers are used to. It's almost like a D&D or Pathfinder-esque. style because you've got different movements, you've got hex squares if you want to use those, you've got everything, really. I'm trying to think of a way to encapsulate it, but it has everything. It was a specific point because almost from the initial concept of the game, I had how I wanted the book to work for the history and everything else, but for the system mechanics themselves, I always envisioned a 3-tier play style for it because I wanted to provide people options because not everyone likes to play with a crunchy game style. I like crunch. So a lot of those, that's why that is presented as the main primary rule set for folks because that is the way that I play it normally. But the other rule sets are, I hate to toot our own horn, but elegantly built because I worked on them with some incredible designers and we made something that we're all really proud of. Even the Badlands, which is the miniature version, you use sort of like the stamina point stat, and that determines how many actions you can get. And you have to decide how many points you want to spend to be able to do different things. And all of them are powered by a D100. So, like the D100 is the base roll throughout everything. It sort of links everything together. But then you go into different aspects and styles of that play.
That's fantastic. I'm going to switch over to another view. So I'm going to flip through this book because I'm sure people are dying to see parts of it. So let's do that. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. The artwork, fantastic. We were talking about it earlier. Like some of these pieces are just like absolutely amazing. Like I love that this is such a beautiful piece and you're just like, oh, this is a full page. Like this is going to be an entire page on this book, full color. Yeah. What are some of
that was favorite? The other thing. Unlike Harlem Bound, which I loved and was my passion project that taught me how to make a book. It was primarily black and white with red accents, but for Haunted West, as we were telling a larger, fuller, more complex story, I wanted to present the West in full color. So we made it a full color book for everything.
That is so interesting. Maybe that's something that like really sticks out in my head why I'm so impressed by it. Because when you like see the Old West, it's like almost everything that we've seen is like black and white, or it's like really muted colors. It's that sandstone and whatever. And like this is the first time I'm seeing like bright green and red, and like obviously colors existed before, you know what I mean? Like,
well, the funny part is it wasn't even back then. If you go for the historical aspect of it, there were bright colors that were worn a lot of the time and all these other great things that people have just sort of pushed to the side to stick with this one like very narrowed view of what it should be. And we didn't want to present that. We wanted to present like the full picture of what it was. I want to give, and one of the reasons it was so important for me to have the book be how it is I want to give hooks for other designers and other people to read about it, to engage with it, and to then give them jumping off points to go make their own stuff. Because the hardest part of the book, well, one of the hardest parts, is that trying to find all of these people and all of these stories with no points of reference. Because if you go back and look at other stuff, they don't talk about these people. So there aren't stories written about them. So that narrows, you say, from like a 100 points, you're starting at a pool of 50 points. And then you have to take into account the time that everything was written, and a lot of the stories weren't told. So your pool of 50 then becomes a pool of 25. And you're trying to fish in that to find all these things and get more detail and make it as accurate as possible.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That makes complete sense, because I'm like, a lot of times we hear a lot of the same stories, you know, and even of those same stories, like how many of them feature people of color, right? How many of them are immigrant stories, or, you know, Native American stories, or, you know, so many different types of people have existed, and there's so little like representation in those areas. So yeah, that's another huge feat then. So like, you're like, I'm going to find it and I'm going to put it in there, and you know what? This is interesting. So I'm actually going to give it its own page, and we're going to talk about it. And it might not, you know, might not have anything to do with combat or whatever, but like, I love those sections that you have in this book. Let's talk about those historical plot hooks. I really dig those. Like, those are actually my favorite part of the book, because one, like, I don't know all that stuff, like I just don't. But like two, at the end, you're just kind of like, well, also he might be an alien, or also, you know.
Well, one of the ways to help people engage with material is that you give them something to work with. Like, it is great if you get a book with a lot of history, but if it's not engaging, you're less inclined to use it. But if it's engaging, and on top of that, you could build in your entire scenario around this paragraph. Go.
Yeah.
And like right there you go, oh my gosh, I don't really need anything else but like this and to know one rule, and I can run an entire game.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love that. And it leads to so many other um I think I like it on top of that because it does lead to other things, and it kind of levels the playing field. Like, if a player is so inclined to do their own research, you know what I mean? Like, to learn their own thing on history, they can use it for inspiration, for reference, to be a GM lawyer or what have you, a rules lawyer if they want, and be able to bring well, actually, GM. Yeah, I mean, people, if you're watching this right now, you're watching me scroll through this PDF, and I am quickly scrolling through it, scrubbing through it, and I'm probably like 60% through right now, and I've been doing it for like the last 10 minutes. There's just so much here. Okay, yeah. So, what are your favorite? What I talk about Easter eggs a lot. Like, I feel like writers love their own Easter eggs. They love their own like little thing, like, ooh, well, you know what I mean? Like a little cryptic thing that they just like throw in there. Can you tell us if you have any of those in this book? I'm sure you do. Like, you seem like the type of guy who loves complicated and loves like something's really exciting to you if it's like a puzzle box, right? Like that seems like you.
So everything I write, I put little weird plot hooks or in jokes inside of it, and Haunted West is full of them. So I've had the joy of working with Onyx Path, and one of the Onyx Path developers has read a lot of my stuff now and has caught on to some of my tricks. And as they were reading through this, because they were one of the readers for it, they're like, "Hey, I just noticed that Conan Doyle reference you made on page so and so." It's like, how did you find that? That is so obscure, no one should have seen it. Or it's like, "Hey, I caught your Bowie reference on this page. How did you get a Zora Neale Hurston thing in here without saying Zora Neale Hurston?"
I knew it. We've been talking.
I'm trying to up my game now.
We've been talking for like maybe like an hour today, and I can definitely tell like you just seem like such a guy that's like tickled by like like it's there, you don't know. That's awesome. What is something?
A side joke not related to this. I was one of the writers for the new Chicago by Night book for Vampire.
Oh yeah,
Onyx Path did. And I got to update Kevin Jackson, who was the Prince of Chicago. And throughout the book, I got to add some other things in. And so I gave Kevin 4 other siblings. And if you go back, if you get the book and you read it, you may notice the name of their siblings. But this year sometime, the lead developer of the book is talking to someone about the game, and he puts together that it's Kevin, and he has 4 other siblings, and Kevin's last name is Jackson. So equivalently, I've given them the Jackson 5.
Oh my God. See, no, that's not, I'd pull your book from the shelf so quickly if I found that. No, that's fantastic. Like, I love stuff like that. Like, and that's what's really important about a book like that too. Like, I know that's not like, it doesn't take itself super seriously, right? Like, let's talk about that. How did you, this material, right? Like, how do you both give it a voice, give it the respect it deserves, right? Give this history the respect it actually deserves, because you're shining a light on it for the first time. How do you do that and still make it fun? How do you handle that? It sounds like it was very easy, or maybe it was hard, or maybe you found a way. I don't know. I'd be terrified.
So this book is the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than my time in the military in Iraq. Wow. Harder than my time in law enforcement. Harder than even thinking about and creating Home Unbound like by myself, because it has so many moving parts. so many different layers to it. The level of complexity and sensitivity required, the additional resources to call people in. I guess I will start at the beginning almost, like from the Kickstarter. We launched the Kickstarter, I want to say it was October of 2019. I'm not sure if people remember what happened to Kickstarter in October of 2019.
No.
So we launched, and about 3 hours later, that's when the Kickstarter union strike happened.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That
And
was
I thought about actually canceling the Kickstarter, but fortunately enough, the unions, the people on strike said, please keep backing Kickstarters because that helped them. And fortunately, the project funded, but I had a number of people email me privately saying, hey, this is happening. I will not back anything on Kickstarter.
yeah.
Best of luck. And after that, that moved us to about 2020. And so I think everyone remembers what happens around February of 2020.
No, refresh me. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
what's going on like
So
February of
that's when COVID hit
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's going
and
on
everyone went on lockdown. And the impact of COVID on in life in general and everyone that was suffering. Now add in trying to create a creative product on top of that, then trying to create a creative project that delves into the complexity and horrors and atrocities done during the time period and trying to work on that project.
Yeah. And then also like finding a whole new way of communicating and timetables, and people are losing their job, people are getting sick, people have loved ones passing away. It's like every step of the way something was trying to stop you from making this book, right? Like
And I've been a freelancer for a number of years, and when I sort of transitioned to publishing, I was astonished by the number of people that didn't hit or meet deadlines.
oh,
And I will not say who, but I had at least one person that worked on the book that was past their deadline, and they gave me wrote me 1,000 words, beautifully written 1,000 words about how this project couldn't work at all, and how they couldn't do the work they were supposed to do, and they just flaked. So if you're a freelancer, I will say that meet your deadlines, and if there's something you can't do, talk to whoever your line developer is because they're willing to work with you. As long as you give someone notice, they can try to come up with something. Like for me, I'm all about my team. Could be from my army. I'm all about my team. If you tell me you can't do something, we'll find a way to make it work. The more notice you give me, the easier it is for me to help you.
yeah, absolutely.
And
Don't.
so there was
Yeah.
that additional hurdle too.
Can you tell us like how much percentage wise they were responsible for that they left you holding the bag for?
That would give away more than I want to.
Ooh,
That
okay,
I have
okay.
no idea what that person was going through,
Enough
but
said.
that in itself vastly impacted the timeline.
Yeah.
And then having to do rewrites, and there is a level of sort of ingrained bias in people. And for instance, someone that was writing part of the book wrote thousands and thousands of words on the Mormons, but they only wrote 50 words on the Exodusters. And that goes against the creed of the book, because like from the beginning of the book, how it works is that we're telling all of these stories. So that means shining an equal light on as many people as possible, and no one can take center stage. So having to go back and rework and workshop that, so that I added additional time.
Wow. What
And the last hurdle, I'll skip some in the middle for you,
No,
but the
yeah,
last
let's hear it.
hurdle. So we get the book done, we send it off, and then there was a printer error, and I've been working with the printer from when the book went out until technically right now, and then there's a reprint of the book. I recalled the books that weren't right, sent out new books to folks.
How many? Sorry. Like
More than one, but less in a full order.
oh my god.
But everyone's got their books. Folks are happy.
Let me ask you this. Was it worth it?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, it totally sucks, but yeah.
I think this book is incredibly important. I
Yeah.
think what it can do if people want to engage with it is going to be, it would help change how people interact with history. And that is utterly important. And it needed to exist. And I am glad that I had people willing to go on this hectic, unexpected, wild journey with me to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, whew. I mean, for as many problems that showed up in the project, it sounds like your team was really like behind you 110%. And like something like this needs an army, right? Like a huge team to like go through it and fact check and still make it fun, right? Because it's still a game. It must be so easy to like fall into a trap of just like, no, this is important and it needs to go in. But it's just like, well, yeah, but also like, how does it fit with like the fun game that we're trying to have people play, you know? Um, yeah,
Well,
this,
that's why for when we did it, one of the things was the game itself. You needed to be able to run, if you wanted to, a purely historical game. Like you could die of dysentery if you wanted to,
yeah,
rather than being afraid of bullets. Or if you wanted to, you need to be able to run this weird high flying game where you're like all vampire gunslingers fighting gray aliens on like a falling hovercraft with like dinosaurs into the Lost Valley.
yeah.
You could do all that if you want to. And it's that gulf that you could play it.
Where do you think it really shines? Like, where do you think like you play tested it dozens of times, I imagine. So what is something that like surprised you of like, oh, people really love this thing?
Um, how much, it's gonna sound silly, but how much people love the actual history? Because history is weirder than a lot of fiction if you go and read it, but
Yeah.
it needs to be entertaining, and that's why I chose a lot of the people I chose because they can turn dry text into something that's almost like a comic to read.
Yeah. That's incredible. The
I have a friend who's playing the game right now for their home group. I think they're on like their 10th game now, and they've talked about how much their group loves the dueling mechanics because we've broken down. You can have a social duel because words are just as important as a gun, and like the gunfighter duels, and they've had like a mix of those where you can be in like the bar having this big massive social combat with Hearst and trying to convince the town people that of what a villain Hearst is, or in the middle of like town square and it's high noon and you're getting ready to draw down with someone. Like those are in there and they're like loving those because it's a separate mechanic in the game that flows differently but uses what you've already learned and built on.
That's fantastic. Of course, the writer is tickled by the social duel of fighting with your words. Of course. Love that. Love hearing about it. What do you how does that even break down? Are they like actually like how what are those mechanics like? If you can just give me a taste of them.
So they follow a similar structure. It's sort of a 3 round tier of different actions you can do. Part of it for the gunslingers, like the first round, is all about sort of sussing each other out or trying to throw the other person off. You might give them like an intimidating glance that first round. You might try to like make up some sort of perception thing to find out something about their gun. It'll give you a bonus for the next round. And then it's a lot of flashy showing off before you get down to the draw. Like the drawing is the last part. That is almost the most least interesting part of the entire dance.
Oh, really? I would have thought the exact opposite of that actually. So
When you draw and shoot, you know who wins, but
that makes
you're
sense.
shooting.
Yeah.
You're shooting. You're not like doing the posture in. You're not being all cool, like tipping the hat down, doing this certain little hand move how Doc Holliday does. None of that stuff.
The drum roll. That's the best part, the drum roll. Cool. Yeah, like what so when you are we talked a little bit about this when we were setting up for this interview. Um Looking for this information and research, right? Must have led you to a bunch of places. To like I'm sure you started with Google, but like I'm sure it went down a huge rabbit holes of museums and like books and Dewey Decimal Systems and whatnot. How far did you go in the research? Like how where did it take you?
Always. I know it sounds silly, but people should always start with Wikipedia.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
the facts on Wikipedia take what you want for accuracy,
Yeah.
but it gives you a taste, and it also usually includes a lot of links that you can click on, and those links will send you to other sources. So, like, that's a solid base to give you something to work with, and from there, you can contact museums, historical societies, anything that's dealing with that topic. Because a lot of times, the researchers or historians are just happy to talk with you for maybe 5 or 15 minutes about something, because this is something they probably love, and it's not like they get a chance a lot just to talk to someone interested in either writing about this thing or blogging or like doing something with it, and it lets them become sort of part of that process. And I know, for instance, when I was writing for Pilgrim Press, when I was trying to figure out where Vermont, I had this idea of what a camp should look like, but I contacted this Vermont Historical Society, and they sent me this massive, like, 18-page map of the camp that I could unfurl for free just because I was asking them something, and they never get people that call them.
Is it like a
And that
copy,
was
like a
incredibly cool.
photocopy? They didn't send you like. Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
was about to say this.
photocopy.
Okay, good. Just because you
And for Haunted
asked.
West, yeah. And for Haunted West, I talked to the African American History Museum that's in DC, and from them, they sent me these great, like the photo right there, I
Yeah.
think came from the African American History Museum.
Oh man,
And all they wanted was 2 copies of the book, and when it was published, so they could have it for their records.
that's so cool.
And they sent me 100 photos, I think.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I've got enough material for 2 to 6 more books right now. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. This is yeah, that's amazing. Like when you think about people like connecting the gaming world and this historical world, like very similar collectors of knowledge and stats and like setting and lore. They're very much kindred spirits, right? Like
There's a shared passion.
yeah, exactly, right. I'm sure there's so much crossover when it comes to it. Like I'm just amazed at like this timeline is amazing. You know what I mean? Like there's so many parts of this book that you can just scroll through. And by the way, like I have been again, like we're checking back in on Carlos's scroll, and I probably have a good like 25% more left of this book that I've been scrubbing through. Yeah, when you look at this stuff, like this is one of my favorite sections that I had mentioned, the historical folks. You have a list of them, and you give a brief history and then some plot hooks in there. And I don't know why this tickles me so much. Like this is just like, I guess it has that I have a Bill and Ted affinity, and it's just like what happens if we pull them out, if one thing changed, yeah.
That's what I built the entire alternate history timeline on.
Yeah. What is your
Just one? I changed one small thing.
Give me two mind-blowing facts that you think everyone should know, and it's in the book that you found, and you're just like, this blew my mind. Like, I'm not the same person after this.
Thaddeus Stevens is a badass.
Okay.
The America, even with all of his problems, if not for Thaddeus Stevens, would be worse than it is right now. And there's so many. It's like, and regardless of what anyone tells you, Bass Reeves was a Lone Ranger.
Wait, do people deny that he was? So I'm actually on this. I'm actually on the Bass Reeves page right now.
Yeah, they do.
He's attributed to being the inspiration for the Lone Ranger, right? Like,
yeah, but there are other historians that would differ, and they would come up with other reasons why not. But in my opinion, and I stand by the facts that I go by, Bass Reeves was the inspiration for the Lone Ranger.
That's fantastic. I love it. And I love the idea that like this is so important, it needs to be in this book. You know what I mean? Because like if not your book, whose, right? Like it goes back to that.
That's why when you ask me, even through like all the trouble and everything, was it worth it? Yes, because I don't think anyone else would have made this. They wouldn't have had all the different people from all the different backgrounds. Like we focus on like immigrants, different religions, like different races of people. We focus on the indigenous nations. We touch all those things, and there is no one certain person that takes center stage. And that's how you need to tell the story, to have it have nuance and be complete and show like something that everyone did.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm like in love with this book, and the
And then we put in zombies and vampires for folks that want to go and fight them.
yeah. So what are your zombies and vampires different than vampires and zombies that we've known? You know, everyone puts their little spin on them. Do yours have a little spin? What's your little spin?
Well, we actually took some of them we made up, some of them we took from folklores of different like groups of people and everything else. So it has a weird sort of mix that we like, much like all the people we touch on like all the different folklores and imaginings for it. So we have everything from like grays to different variants of vampires from Africa to like different ghosts from China and Ireland. It's all in there because when people come from anywhere or here, they bring their own stories, and their stories are changed by the people they encounter. Like even at the start of the book, we talk about the origin of country music, how people say country music is actually ends up being a mix of African, indigenous nations, and some of the different other immigrants that came here and combining all those things. And that's how it became what it was.
Fantastic. Love it. I love how you find a way to find the common thread in both history and like, you know, lore that we might be used to in mainstream media, and you're like, "Oh, I'm just going to tie it together." Like this is we can tie it together not even through like a cliche, but through theme, right? Like the theme of like history. Um which again, man, like I know you love the complex. Like I know you love like the this affects this and affects that, like that complicated sequence. I love it. What what's something that like you wish you had more time to do on this book? Like this is an opus, right? Like this is huge. And I imagine like any artist, nothing is complete. So, what is something that you're like, man, I wish if deadlines were a thing, I was going to live forever. Like, this is what I would have added.
Well, the joy of this isn't the last part. This is like the opening salvo of a Haunted West line.
Ooh,
That's why there are, I think, 4 or 5 bag of nails, a balladeer kit, and I mentioned I have enough material to make 2 to 6 other books. I've got rough outlines for those. It's just a matter of when I find time to actually do it. And I mentioned a lot of cut content. I've got a bunch of cut content that can also be put into those books. If you look at the outlaw section for this, that was originally, I think, like 10 or 15,000 words. And in the book, it's maybe 5.
oh wow, 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 wow.
And I cut out another 5 or 10,000 words from historical folks. I cut locations. I cut some of the creatures and everything else in the book. I've got other magics that I didn't include in the book.
So anything that gets released for Haunted West will be. How would you even describe that type of book then? Like it's a module, it's an adventure, it's
Supplement.
a supplement, like altogether, like an altogether supplement. Yeah, for sure. But
Like I could make an outlaw supplement,
yeah,
or I can make a campaign book.
that's fantastic. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're planning to do as well, right? Like,
I don't know. I've been in the West now for 4 years, roughly. I think we'll
wow,
see.
4 years. 4 years is a long time.
That's
What
just working on this.
that? Yeah. How long was it in your head before you did it? Like, how long was it kicking?
So anyone that knows me knows I usually have about 10 different, like solidly siloed different other ideas. And as I was writing Harlem Unbound, I had 3 or 4 ideas that kept coming back to me. And I was like, I don't have time to work on you right now. I need to finish Harlem Unbound. And Haunted West, out of all those ideas, was the one that kept coming back. And so once I finished the first version of Harlem Unbound, I started sketching out more of Haunted West. So I'd say that was 2017, 2018. I started like expanding on the notes I had. and I started thinking out how the book should look.
Are they? Does it feel like different universes to you, or do you connect them in your head? Like,
They're different universes. Like Harlem Unbound, I consider the Harlem universe. It's sort of like my own MCU that I will go back to because I'm having an itch to go back to it to do some more. Because
yeah,
I've got this campaign idea for Harlem Unbound that would almost potentially rival, like for folks that know Call of Cthulhu, a Master and Tep. It's like the size of it. So I need to find the time to write it, but it's in my brain, and I've sort of sketched out more notes for it. And I keep slowly coming back and working on it, but I'm bouncing between that and some other things.
fantastic. I love it. I love it. I think we're creeping up on time here. Um, if you are just tuning in for the actual play, we've been having a very nice conversation with the creator of Haunted West, Chris Spivey. We've been scrolling through the book, and it's been an hour, and I haven't even reached the end of it yet. And we're just going to keep going and going for a very long time. I'm going to switch over to us talking the
Do we
talking.
want to ask the chat if there are any one specific thing they'd like to know before we wrap up? Maybe one or two quick questions.
Yeah, if the chat has any questions, please put it in there. I've seen a few people post that they have the book, that they got their copy. I would love to hear.
You're the best people if you have the book.
So if you have it, just drop a question in there. I'll read it. The mods are there as well. If you are watching this on YouTube, I'm putting a link. Where can people purchase the physical copy of the book?
They can purchase it from the Darker Hue Studios website, or they can go to Indie Press Revolution. That should also have a copy. They should have their link active in about 2 days.
Fantastic. We also have the Roll20 version coming out soon. I believe it's up for pre-order right now. Is that true? I think so. Yeah,
it is. And for people that want to get the pre-order from Roll20, I've even given a discount until it goes.
Oh, awesome. Do we have that? Mods, if you have that, go ahead and drop it in the chat. This will go up pretty quickly on YouTube, so I'll include that as well in the description. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead, open up that description and find that link. Do you have a favorite monster or baddie from the book?
That's a hard one. I have so many. I'm gonna. You asked me a very.
That's from Dr. Colossus 2 asked that question from the chat.
Now that he's asked, I've forgotten the names, but it is from one of the different indigenous nations tribes. It's almost like this carnivorous giant that is described in some of the different folklore. I don't remember the name right now, sorry, but that is one of my favorites. Just how there is this great African Vampire 2 variant that's in there that has they're almost invulnerable, and they can change into like the size of a fruit fly and all these other great things.
Oh wow, the size of a fruit fly. It's not. Is it like a gargoyle type creature?
No, it's a vampire-esque creature, and one of the forms it can take is a fruit fly. So it flies around and like sneaks into people's places, and they can change and drain their blood. But when it's in its fruit fly form, in some of the myths, it is invulnerable to damage. And people would put out, I want to say it was like honey and milk or something to sort of lull it to sleep.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So like that's a great question, but I've also been working on something else. I'm trying to remember the names right now. Cool. But I remember the attributes because we had to find a way to make it playable for people if they encounter them. Because, all right, we jump the nigh invulnerable vampire. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
That's fantastic. Let's see. Another question here. We have. I think I skipped one. Chris, who were 5 inspirational characters you enjoyed including the most?
Red Cloud. Bass Reeves. Kind of goes without saying for Bass Reeves, though. What is her name? Ayatoy, and now I'm going to open my own book at this point. Thaddeus Stevens.
Oh yeah.
And I forgot her name, but she was a former black enslaved woman who became famous for having her own racing horses. Eliza Carpenter.
Oh, that's interesting.
Nat Love kind of goes without saying too, so that was an easy one.
Fantastic. Oh yeah, I have her right here. Let's see.
Incredible.
Yeah,
because
awesome.
they're
Go on.
for amazing people that we've never heard of.
Yeah,
whose stories are unbelievable, and there's so much you could do with it. Like that, her as an NPC in your game.
Yeah. I got the plot hook right here. Horse thief is a serious crime in the West. Like, yeah, I love that. I love
those
that.
Are the life. Those are the Life Lesson series books behind me.
Yeah,
I went out of my way to collect them before I really got into all the writing.
Oh wow. Yeah, it's really amazing. I love reading the history of it because you read the history and then you apply the plot hook, right? It's like actually doing something with the thing you learned and you can play with it right away, like right out of the box. Yeah, you know what? We are actually out of time. There is a actual play of this very game coming up right next. It's going to be fantastic. Chris, thank you so much. Thank you so much for stopping by, for sharing with us, for giving us insight into this book. I'm super excited for it. I know a lot of people watching this. This will be up on YouTube. People will be searching for it. They get an inside track into what happened, how this developed like over many, many years. And like, it's fantastic to see it out. Is there anything where a link or where people can find you or anything you'd like to say to the audience? This would be the time.
I appreciate you doing this. I appreciate everyone for taking time to come out, everyone that's bought the book, everyone that's given me support throughout the entire project. If people want to find me, you can find me at darker_hue on Twitter. Or if you want to have some great conversation with us, you can come and join the Darker Hue Discord, where a lot of us are right now chatting. And there's a lot of buzz about the actual play that none of us know anything about that I'm excited to see.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining me. You are a fantastic guest. Once again, I'm content producer Carlos Luna, and stay tuned for the premiere episode of Haunted West. Thank you very much. Bye.
Take care.